So when we talk about types of research, there are broadly empirical and non-empirical research. Now, when I say empirical, I mean data-based research. Every study in which data is collected, whether in second-hand data or first-hand data, if you are using somebody else's data or you are collecting it yourself in any form, if there is data, then that is an empirical study. And the empirical is further divided into qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is the rich, in-depth data that we have, which usually answers questions such as why and how. Quantitative is that data which can be reduced to numbers and can be analyzed statistically, mathematically. And a mixed methods approach is when it is qualitative and quantitative together. In some studies, we use both of them. When I explain quantitative and qualitative to my BS students, I usually say that if you are looking at something from the top of a building, you get to be able to look at a larger land, a larger area, but you cannot observe the tiny details. That's how a quantitative researcher looks at the world, a bird's eye view. And if you're a qualitative researcher, you would go to the ground and you would observe the tiny bit of land that is very close to you. So you would have your microscope, your lens with you, and you would observe that tiny piece in a lot of detail. That's the difference between qualitative and quantitative researchers. In arts and humanities, mostly, we use non-empirical research. We use non-data-based research. This is the kind of research that is done in literature, in history, in fine arts, in philosophy. There, we don't have data. In literature, we have a text. And this text, the literary text, is not the same as, let's say, a textbook or a policy document or any other type of document or report. It's not the same as that. Because a literary text is being treated as a piece of art. We are treating a literary text as a piece of art. And there are some people in the waiting room. I've just added them. And we are analyzing it as an art form. We're not analyzing it as data. Okay, so that's the major thing that we need to do when we are doing research in literature. However, that does not mean that you cannot do qualitative or quantitative research in literature. You can still do both of them. Hello, Dua and Savera. Can I ask you to please mute your mic in the meanwhile? Thank you. Asma, please mute your mic for a while. Thanks. All right, so we can do qualitative, quantitative, or textual research in literature. The most common research that is done in literature is textual. Sometimes we call it non-empirical, sometimes we call it textual, sometimes we call it critical. All terms are open. All right. Do we have any questions about this? Feel free to turn on your mic and speak or write in the chat. Yes, non-empirical research, Amir, is a very different thing from qualitative and quantitative. Some people mistakenly call textual analysis as qualitative. It's not the same thing. And I will explain that there is a textual analysis which is qualitative, and that's different. That's not the one we do in literature. Okay. The kind of textual analysis that we do in literature, that's non-empirical, and non-empirical means there is no data. Okay, those of you who arrived late, I would just recap. We have just started talking about it. What I've said is that there are two types of research, empirical and non-empirical. Within empirical, we have qualitative and quantitative. I hope that you all know what qualitative and quantitative are. And then within non-empirical, we have textual analysis, which is a non-data based research that we usually do in literature.